Okay.
Change చేస్తాం.
అవ్వలేదా?
Yes, he's taking vapors. So that he will not cough. He's taking vapors so that he will not cough.
Okay.
सभी ये और वो बॉक्सेस जोशना माता लेके गए. She's not Jyotsna. Keep it one place and tell me where. Tell me इधर कभी है. इधर पता नहीं, मेरे कंट्रोल में नहीं रहती.
Keep it down. ये यार मैट में रखो.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, the both of the topics.
నేను ఆఫీస్ డ్రెస్ వేసేసుకున్నాను ప్రభుజీ ఆఫీస్ డ్రెస్ యాజ్ ఇఫ్ ఐఎమ్ గోయింగ్ టు ఆఫీస్ రిటైర్డ్ ఎంప్లాయీ అదే పద్మమాతకి
plus time की dehydration but all combined is not అది మటుకు గ్యారెంటీ ప్యూర్ మ్యాటర్ ఇక్కడ ఏమవుతుందో ఏంటో ఎవరికి తెలియదు బట్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈజ్ రన్నింగ్ ఆన్ ఇట్స్ ఓన్ డెఫినెట్లీ spiritual surrender. Just say surrender, empowerment, and immortality.
ఆ మనోళ్ళ కలుపుతున్నాను మాది మాట
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram,
Ram Ram,
Ram Ram,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna. Yesterday was an amazingly exciting day. We finished the day 14 of the war. Now we are entering the day 15. And I'm sure everyone is eagerly waiting to hear about Dronacharya and many other characters, really the great personalities that you don't know. So let us welcome His Grace Chaitanya Prabhu with three loud enthusiastic Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
This part.
The green should be up.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakarya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Vishnu Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Lord, please guide us all so that we can learn to understand your pastimes and learn how to be patient in seeking understanding and not jump to conclusions that lead to misunderstandings. Hare Krishna. So welcome back. Today we continue our discussion today on the Mahabharat, and our focus today will be on the 15th day. Now, some events are more linked with other events in terms of the narrative, conceptual flow or the relational dynamics. So I will highlight some incidents later, and I will not necessarily go along the linear events, although we'll have a broad linear path. So on the 14th day, when Jayadratha fell, the Kauravas were dismayed. They felt they had been cheated. That now the difference between a trick and cheating, tricking someone and cheating someone, the difference is often subjective. So, for example, Krishna covering the sun and causing the Kauravas to lower their guard, and then revealing the sun, then having Jayadratha killed that way. Now, was that cheating? So, now in every activity there are rules, and the rules are meant to provide a boundary for what is acceptable behavior. Now, for example, now when rules are being followed, at that time, we could say at one side, rules are like roads. Now, the roads give us a boundary. We cannot go beyond this side, we cannot go beyond this side. But the point is not just to follow the rules. The point is not just to stick to the road. The road is meant to take us to a destination. So, similarly, rules are meant for a purpose. So consider a sports like cricket. We are going to compare, say, war with sports. So now, do we glorify a player? Oh, this player throughout his life always followed all the rules. Well, yeah, you should follow the rules. But the point of playing cricket is not just to follow the rules. It is within following the rules, you learn to excel. So, just like the point is when we are driving, not just to stick to the traffic rules, it is to get to the destination. So, like that, within the boundaries of the rules, one has to reach to a destination. So, often religious or cultural practices which only impose the rules without telling what is the purpose of the rule sufficiently start seeming very restrictive and even repressive. So now in every sport, there is always that element of tricking. Say for example, a bowler may set the field in such a way that all the fielders are bouncing on say the one side, the offside. And the batsman thinks the ball is going to come on the offside. And at the last moment, the bowler bowls the ball on the leg side. And the batsman is unprepared and the batsman gets out because of that, unprepared. So by in that sense, now we could say, is that cheating? No, it's not cheating. It's within the boundaries of the rules. But a certain expectation was set up and then an expectation was subverted. So basically, now when we're talking about tricking and cheating. So the two are not the same things. Cheating is a outright breaking of the rules. Cheating is breaking of the rules. So we will see later, for example, when Ashwatthama kills warriors who are sleeping, that is a complete breaking of the rules. So, for example, if a bowler bowls a bouncer, now and the bouncer hits the batsman, and they know that this particular batsman is not very good at playing short pitch balls, then what will happen is that is an injury. That will bad. Maybe the bowler also feels bad. The bowler really hates the batsman, the bowler will not feel bad. The bowler will be happy. Either way. But the point is that bowling a bouncer is not against the rules. But if the same bowler comes and punches the batsman, that's against the rules. So now sometimes within the rules it may appear like some bowlers may come very slowly and they run very slowly, suddenly bowl very fast. Or somebody comes running very fast and then bowls the extremely slow ball. And the batsman gets deceived by that. So that means doing actions in a particular way or actions that create a set of expectations and then changing the actual action at the last moment. That is not seen as a sign of, it is not cheating. So tricking to some extent can be a sign of cleverness. Where basically it is not so much breaking of the rules as it is subverting of expectations. The subverting means that expectations set in one way and subvert means to do the opposite. So you could subverting as inverting of expectations. But so tricks are often seen as signs of cleverness. So there is this difference between tricking and cheating. And now somebody who does not like it or somebody who's targeted or fooled by it may feel that it was cheating. But it's not exactly cheating. So what Krishna does is he covers the sun. Now, of course, like yesterday I mentioned that some people say it was a solar eclipse and that's how the sun got covered. Now there is always a possible to look for a natural explanation for something which also has a supernatural cause. Sometimes the natural and the supernatural may coincide. And if that happens, it is not something which is to be, that the natural has to be rejected for the supernatural. So yes, it could be that an eclipse occurred at that time. It could be that Krishna covered the Sudarshan Chakra. Krishna covered the Sudarshan Chakra. It was Krishna who arranged the eclipse to happen. Whatever it is, or the eclipse was going to happen, and by its own natural timing, and the Kauravas were not prepared for it. So the point was that Krishna did not shoot after the sun had set. The Kauravas became so overconfident that they lowered their guard. So what Krishna says, "Dukkeshu anudigna manaha, sukheshu vigataspruha." That when something bad happens, we become dejected, and when something good happens, we become elated. But either way, extremes of emotions can distract us from paying attention. So it was not a breaking of the rules. But Duryodhan felt that they had been cheated. And therefore, he ordered that we have to get back at the Pandavas. And he insisted that they keep fighting. That although the sun set, they didn't stop fighting on that particular day. So when they kept fighting, am I audible still behind? So when they kept fighting in this way, the war went late into the night. And what he didn't realize was that there were people who were demons. And especially now demon is both, when you talk about some demoniac mentality, that refers to a mentality. But demons are not just a mentality. So demons is both a physical structure, like there is Asuri Yoni, but then there is Asuri Prakriti. So the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called as Daiva Asura Sampada. Sampada refers to the nature. So when you talk about demon, it can refer to the body that person has, where they have horns coming out of their head or their teeth coming out of their body, or it can refer to the mind. Now, sometimes it may be that somebody has the body born in a demoniac family, but they do not have the mind that is demoniac. On the other hand, somebody might have the mind that is demoniac, although their body may be perfectly human. So we see, in one sense, the Mahabharat war was between two human families. So the Pandavas and Kauravas were both humans, but the Kauravas were of a Asuri pravritti. They were of a demoniac nature. Now, interestingly, both were humans and both had demons on their sides. There were demons. The demon on his Kaurava side was Alambusha, and the demon on the Pandava side was Gatotkacha. So now, on the previous day, on an earlier day, Alambush had actually killed one of the sons of Arjuna, Irvan. And then, now on this particular day, when the battle extended into the night, what happened was, the demons are often called as Nishachara. Nishachara means they move about at night, they gain power at night. So when Duryodhan extended the battle into the night, this was the day when Ghatotkach exhibited his greatest prowess. Now simultaneously on the other side, Alambush also exhibited prowess. But this was Ghatotkach's day, and Ghatotkach eventually overpowered and killed Alambush. And then Ghatotkach started destroying the Kaurava forces. He seemed utterly unstoppable. And it seemed as if this particular demon, who they all knew was an important warrior, was a formidable warrior, but who was formidable earlier seemed to be unstoppable. And then, at this particular time, Drona was engaged elsewhere in fighting with Arjuna. And initially, now that Karna had come into the battlefield, till this time, because of the strategies that the Kauravas had used, That is, they had wanted to sideline Arjuna so that Drona could arrest Yudhishthira. So Karna and Arjuna had not had a direct conflict till now. Uh, there had been some skirmishes, but someone else had challenged and they had got distracted. On the 13th day or on the 14th day also, when Arjuna was charging towards Jayadratha, Bhima had challenged Karna and they had not fought on. Now on this day, it seemed that Arjuna and Karna would fight with each other. But at that time, Krishna told Ghatotkacha, Krishna told Arjuna that Drona is the commander over there. You focus on fighting with Drona right now. And let Ghatotkacha fight with Karna. And they agreed and they called Ghatotkacha. And he said that Karna is devastating our soldiers. Today is the day for you to show your heroism and stop him. And Ghatotkacha fought like never before. And his attack was so devastating that even Karna could not counter it. And finally, as Ghatotkacha seemed to be using his mystic powers, suddenly it appeared to be at one place and another place, and suddenly it appeared to be in a giant form, and suddenly he seemed to be showering weapons from the sky, and all his mystic powers seemed to be increasing with the passage of time. And thus, Karna became desperate. Now he had been itching to show his prowess. For 10 days he had not been fighting, and because of the military strategy, he had not had a moment to show his power. And when he had the moment, it was from his perspective, an upstart opponent was showing him in bad light, was besting him, was destroying him. So he just couldn't bear it. So the warriors around him are saying, Karna, save us. Duryodhan, do something, Karna. He just couldn't tolerate the fact that he was being defeated by Ghatotkacha. And then, in his despair, he used the one weapon that he had reserved specifically for Arjuna. Which was the weapon? The Shakti weapon. Pashupat came later. Shakti weapon was something which is specifically used when, before the war, Indra had come to him asking for charity. So Surya had come to him and warned him that Indra will come in the form of a Brahmana and ask you for charity. Don't give him that charity, because he will ask you for something that will make you vulnerable. He will ask you for your kavach. So he had been born with a natural armor. Now, when Karna heard this, Karna did not respond negatively to Suryadev, but he did not even respond positively. He said that I cannot let my reputation that I am a Danavir, that nobody who comes to me for charity goes empty-handed. I cannot let it go away. So then what had happened was, when Indra came and asked for the kavach, Karna gave that kavach, cut it off from his body, and his body was bleeding because of that. But that was an act of noble charity, you could say. But at the same time, Indra also had some sense of honor. He was a Devata and this was a Manava. Now, if a human being offers something in sacrifice to the Devatas have to give something in return. So he said, I'm pleased by your sacrifice. In giving this, so ask me for a boon. And immediately, Karna was just waiting for this opportunity. And he said, give me your Shakti weapon. And now Indra became grave. He said, this is a weapon that is so powerful that humans can barely handle it. He said, I'll give you this weapon, but you can use this only once. And after it, I will grant you the ability to use it once, but after that, it will return back to me. And that's how he had got the Shakti weapon. Now, this particular weapon was so powerful that it could even kill the Devatas who are considered to be Amar. Now, Amar does not literally mean they're immortal. They're so long that it seems that they're immortal. And Karna had reserved this weapon specifically for Arjuna. However, now at one side we can say he was very charitable. but it was not really a charity. It was more of a swap, more of an exchange. Now, on one side, his kavacha guaranteed that he would not die, but that kavacha did not provide him any advantage by which he could kill Arjuna. Now, his purpose in life as a warrior, he knew that warriors always live on the border of life and death. They can die at any time. His purpose in life was not just to maintain his safety, it was to prove his superiority over Arjuna. And that is, he lost something which was valuable, but he got something in return which for him was even more valuable. A chance by which he could overpower, he could defeat and kill Arjuna. So now, in despair, because Ghatotkacha was not able to be stopped by any other weapons, and then suddenly Ghatotkacha disappeared, and he appeared high up in the sky, speeding down towards him with a blazing sword in his hand. And he seemed to be charging down straight towards Karna, when he would descend on him and lop off his head. Now Karna tried using his weapons, but he had seen that none of the ordinary weapons worked against him. And then in despair, he summoned the Shakti. And he used that Shakti weapon. When the Shakti weapon was invoked, it seemed like a new sun had appeared at night. And as that weapon blazed through the sky, it seemed to split the sky into two as it became like a missile of light, missile of fire blazing through the sky. Ghatotkacha knew as soon as he saw that weapon that his death was now inevitable. And in the last act of heroism, he used all his mystic power not to try to counter that weapon or dodge that weapon, but to just expand his body to a giant size. And as his body expanded more and more and more and more, the weapon Shakti came and pierced through his chest. And as it pierced through his chest, like a blaze of light, it went high into the heavens and disappeared. And Ghatotkacha had come very close to Karna by this time in the sky. And when the arrow fell through his body, pierced through his body, his giant body fell on the Kaurava army and crushed a large number of soldiers by that. So even in his death, he did one final service to the Pandavas. Now, all the Kauravas started cheering and they started glorifying Karna for his feat of heroism. Now, Karna, however, while taking in that glory, he had fought many battles for Duryodhana and he had lost some, won some, but this was his moment of glory. In the biggest battle that the world would experience at that time, he had saved his army from a danger that nobody else could counter. But for him, it was, he had won the battle, but he had set himself up for losing the war. He had lost his winning advantage over Arjuna. Now, on the Pandava side, seeing Ghatotkacha fall, the Pandavas started lamenting. Bhima broke into tears. Yudhishthira especially became mortified. Arjuna was saddened. But shocking to everyone, Krishna started jumping on Arjuna's chariot and dancing and clapping and celebrating. Now Arjuna looked at Krishna and said, Krishna, your behavior is inexplicable. Now, have you lost your mind? How do you say that to God? Krishna now turned towards Arjuna and Krishna put his hand on Arjuna's shoulder and said, from the day I came to know that the Ghatotkacha had acquired the Shakti weapon, he said, I was filled with anxiety about your safety. This weapon is so powerful that it can even kill Indra or Shiva. Arjuna started thinking. He had known about the Shakti weapon, but he had thought, I have celestial weapons I could counter with. that weapon with this weapon. And then he said, but if it had brought Ghatotkacha down in just one attack, it must be something really formidable. And then he thought, he said that Karna, Krishna continued that Karna had got this weapon just to kill you. Now that he has lost this weapon, he has become like a snake without its fangs. He said, now, not only are you safe, but your victory is more or less guaranteed over Karna. Now Arjuna started thinking that if this weapon had been meant for his death, then why had Karna not used it till now? Karna had that opportunity. So Krishna said, as your charioteer, I deliberately did not let you engage with Karna for long. He said, every day Duryodhana and his brothers would prompt Karna, use the Shakti and kill Arjuna today. And Karna would come with that plan, but before he could engage with you, he said, I would take you elsewhere. Now, Arjuna started thinking that when that was true, if Karna had challenged him, then Arjuna would have been compelled to stay and fight with him. So Arjuna realized that Krishna, as the Paramatma, had acted from within Karna's heart also. And Karna, seeing Arjuna, would become so angry in trying to fight, and so to fight that he would start using his other weapons and forget the Shakti weapon. So that same theme, the Krishna is protecting us not just from dangers that we know, but dangers that we also do not know. So this is Krishna, Shri Krishna Bhagwan ki.
Yeah.
Now, at the night when Ghatotkacha fell, the Duryodhana felt that now we have got an advantage over the Pandavas. The fortunes in a war are always changing. One side gets up, other side gets up. So now the death of Jayadratha had been demoralizing for his army. They had been fighting into the night, and then the death of Ghatotkacha had given him the upper hand. Now he wanted to continue fighting, and he kept charging. But then the warriors were so tired. Everybody, they were just, it was dark on one side, and they didn't even know who was friend, who was enemy. And they were tired, they were fighting against each other. But Arjuna could see that they were all utterly exhausted. So Arjuna called out, "Oh warriors, you have fought heroically now. Let us seize the hostilities. And we will continue the fight tomorrow." Now, the Kauravas turned to look at Drona, and Drona nodded. And this infuriated Duryodhana. He said, just when we had the advantage, why did you cede that advantage? I think you are being partial to the Pandavas. Drona just could not tolerate this attack. Again, now there had been some insinuation, some indirect implication of this earlier, but this was the most direct attack on his character that Duryodhana had done. He says, "Oh Prince, you are utterly ungrateful to those who are striving tirelessly for your victory." He said, "I stand here having sustained wounds for your sake." Duryodhana had said that, if you do not want to kill the Pandavas, let Karna take charge and he will, along with me and my brothers, support. So we will kill the Pandavas today. Drona just turned away in disgust. He said, "If you think Karna can do anything more than me, then go and do whatever you want." And Drona just turned and walked off the battlefield. But Duryodhana realized, I have gone a bit too far now. So he decided not to counter the command of his commander. When his commander has said, "Stop fighting," and if Duryodhana says that continue fighting, then it comes to everyone's eyes that there is a tension between the king, or in this case the prince, and the commander. And now the prince can do that, but that would alienate Drona even further. And so he decided to retreat also for the night. Now the next morning when they started fighting, Duryodhana's words were still ringing in Drona's mind. And because of that, Drona started fighting wildly. He started fighting like never before. He felt that he had to preserve his honor. And during his command, till now, there had been no major success. The success of Abhimanyu, the killing of Abhimanyu had been there, but he also knew in his heart that they had killed him unfairly. And so that was not really something that he could take credit for. Ghatotkacha had been killed, but that had been entirely by Karna. So he felt that he had to make his mark as the commander. And therefore he started going on a rampage, just destroying the Pandava army. And that day, Drishtaketu came to challenge, Drishtadyumna came to challenge Drona. And Drishtadyumna had been trying to fight with Drona. He knew he had been born for killing Drona. But throughout the war, he had come nowhere near even injuring Drona. And most of the times when he had fought, Drona had just knocked him aside, stunned him with an array of arrows, and had gone on to fight with anyone else. So on this day, when Drishtadyumna was fighting, three of Drishtadyumna's sons came to assist him. And right in front of Drishtadyumna's eyes, Drona shot sharp arrows which just knocked off the heads of his sons. Drishtadyumna became enraged. And he tried to charge forward, but Drona's attack was too strong. Seeing his son being attacked, Drishtadyumna's father Drupada came. And along with him, Virat came. Now both these kings attacked Drona. And there was a fierce fight for a brief amount of time. But Drona was in no mood on this day to continue fighting. So he used celestial weapons and he killed both the kings. Drishtadyumna went wild with anger and agony. Right in front of his eyes, his sons had been killed and now his father had been killed. And the father whose wish that he kill Drona, that father had now been killed in front of his eyes by the very person whom he was meant to kill. He became completely frustrated with anger and he charged toward Drona. But Drona just repelled him with a few arrows. And now Drona had become so angry. It got into that spirit of wanting to prove his might that he started using celestial weapons. Now, celestial weapons are meant to be used against other warriors who have celestial weapons. But here he started using celestial weapons against ordinary soldiers. And when this happened, thousands of the Pandava soldiers started getting killed. And as this happened, the Yudhishthir, Krishna, Arjuna, they had all been watching Drona on a rampage. They had been having their own fights. And Krishna had been telling Arjuna, you have to confront Drona. But when they saw that Drona had started using celestial weapons, Krishna said, Drona has to be stopped at all costs right now. Krishna reminded Yudhishthir. So all the Pandavas had become such a crisis that all the Pandavas had assembled over there. Bhima was there, Arjuna was there, Yudhishthir was there. And in that emergency situation, Krishna said, do you remember what Drona had told you when you had approached him before the war, asking him how you can win over him? So he had said that I cannot be defeated. But on hearing some disagreeable news from some reliable source, I will lower my weapons. and then I will be overcome. Now, in this section of the Mahabharata, the language is a bit ambiguous. That isn't now the word hataha can be killed, but hata prabha sometimes the effulgence is lost. So hata is also used in a metaphorical sense. Like we have nasha means to destroy, but atmanasham cha. It says atmanash, or we have atma yeke atmahanojana. Atmaha means killer of the soul. Now, of course, the soul cannot be killed. The soul's spiritual inclination, soul's spiritual propensity can be killed. So here they said that Drona has to be overcome. Krishna said, "You, O Yudhishthir, have to tell Drona that Drona's weak point is his attachment to his son. You tell him that Ashwatthama has been killed, and then he will lower his weapons, and then we will be able to overcome him. Only then will you be able to save your army." O Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir was hesitant. He says, "How can I lie? How can I lie to my guru?" So, on hearing this, Bhima was feeling especially enraged because he was seeing their army being slaughtered, and he was seeing that nobody was doing anything. So he charged up to Drona and called out to Drona, "Ashwatthama has been killed." Now, just before, while this discussion was going on the Pandava side, Drona saw that the sages had appeared in the sky. And they said, "Oh Drona, what are you doing? You are using celestial weapons against ordinary soldiers. You have sinned grievously. Stop this at once. Stop fighting. It is enough now." So now this is using celestial weapons is in today's world like using some chemical weapons or biological or nuclear weapons against an enemy which does not have nuclear weapons. Now, if somebody starts using such weapons of mass destruction, then even today, such a head of state, such a king who is using these weapons, whatever way you use, kill that person. Stop that person from causing mass destruction. That is something which might be considered acceptable even today. Of course, nowadays, how much war ethics are followed is an open to question. But the point is that this was something which raised not just concern at a human level, but also at a celestial level. Drona was troubled by hearing those words. Now, he had been fighting with Drishtadyumna, and he had got into the spirit of fighting. He was winning, and he wanted to go on that streak of winning. So he got carried away by that. Drona was not a wicked person by any means. But at this particular point, that surge of energy, that thirst for victory, that need to prove himself, to prove his prowess as the commander. Especially if you remember, what had happened was, he had expected Karna to be the commander, and he had been made the commander. And while he was the commander, in many ways, Karna, by killing Ghatotkacha, had upstaged him. And he had been fighting with Arjuna, but he had not been able to get the better of Arjuna. So that need to prove himself was very strong within him. And when he heard Bhima's words, his heart trembled. But then he thought that Bhima is fickle. Bhima might lie out of jest or as a means of cheating. So he continued fighting. Now, as he continued fighting, he wanted to. Duryodhana attacked him and he countered. Then again he used another celestial weapon. And this time that weapon is destroyed. Spread fire around the Pandava army and destroyed thousands and thousands of soldiers. And Krishna told Yudhishthira, Bhima's words will not be enough. You have to tell Drona. And Yudhishthira came towards Drona. And then he said, Ashwatthama is dead. Now, knowing that Yudhishthira would still hesitate to speak the truth, Bhima had done something. Bhima had marched into the Kaurava forces and they had an elephant named Ashwatthama. and he had hit that elephant on the head and killed it. And thus, it says Ashwatthama is dead. Now, who is Ashwatthama referring to? So, is it Narova, Kunjarova? Was it a human or the animal? So now, when Yudhishthira spoke, Ashwatthama is dead. So, Ashwatthama Hatohate, Narova, Kunjarova. Yudhishthira could not speak a lie. So Yudhishthira spoke. Is it a human or is it an animal? But at that particular time, a sudden sound came from somewhere. Some people say that Krishna blew his conch. And Drona couldn't hear. And Drona just fell on his chariot. How could Ashwatthama be killed? Yudhishthira could not lie. Ashwatthama could not have died. What was the point of living? On one side, he felt that he had lost his virtue. The sages were telling him he had lost his virtue. On the other side, his son was dead. What is the point of living? His mind was reeling around him. And at that time, Drishtadyumna started attacking. So he saw that opportunity and kept charging towards him and attacking him. Now, Drona just neglected his attack. Just too lost in his grief. But then, Drishtadyumna attacked with even more fiercer weapons. As those weapons threaded into Drona's body, although he had an impenetrable armor, no armor is completely impenetrable to any number of attacks. So now the sheer number of attacks that he was sustaining, his armor was breaking. And his vitals were being pierced. As Drona felt the pain of Drishtadyumna's arrows, he picked up his bow. And he started, in his anger, started chanting celestial mantras to evoke celestial weapons. And suddenly, those weapons would not come. And then he looked up, and again those sages were looking reproachfully at him. They stopped. Drona started despairing. He felt there was no point in fighting. He called out, "O Duryodhana, O Dushasana, O Karna, it is now for you to continue the fight. I will fight no more." He felt there's no point to live. And he sat down on his chariot itself. He closed his eyes, started meditating on Vishnu and started chanting the Om mantra. And he felt that without his virtue and without his son, there was no point to live. And those who were the sages in the sky saw his soul leave his body, a streak of light, and go toward the higher regions. Now Drishtadyumna had not seen the Drona departing, the soul departing. He charged upon seizing this opportunity. Now, Arjuna had thought that if Drona lowers his weapons, now when Krishna had suggested this, Arjuna had been shocked. But then he had also been shocked to see what Drona had been doing, using celestial weapons against ordinary soldiers. So he had thought that when Drona would lower his weapons, they would arrest him. And they would keep their guru in house arrest till the war got over. He had no desire to kill his guru. But then, when he saw Drishtadyumna raising his sword and charging towards Drona, who was sitting motionless because of his yogic trance, his body had not yet fallen, the soul had departed. Arjuna screamed at Drishtadyumna, "Stop!" Seeing what he was doing, warriors from both sides, "Stop! Stop, Drishtadyumna!" This was unconscionable. It's utterly unacceptable. So, as Drishtadyumna charged toward Drona, he was so close. Within moments he was there. He grabbed Drona by his hair and pulled him up and raised his sword in one fleeting moment. His one sweeping moment, he cut off the head of Drona. And when this happened, everyone was aghast. Everyone started screaming, "Shame, shame!" The Kauravas side, even the Pandavas side, they were petrified. Arjuna was incensed with rage to see what Drishtadyumna had done. The Kauravas, seeing Drona killed, seeing Drona lower their weapons, has itself been alarming. Seeing Drona killed was devastating. Not knowing what to do, all the warriors started fleeing. And this was utterly, unbearably unacceptable what had happened. And as the Kauravas were fleeing on the other side, they saw Ashwatthama coming back. Ashwatthama had been injured earlier and he had gone to treat his wounds and recover. And that's why when Drona had searched on the battlefield, is Ashwatthama there? He did not see him. That's why he thought he may have perished. So Ashwatthama asked, what is happening? Why are all of you fleeing from the battlefield? Surely some unthinkable calamity must have happened. Otherwise, you would not flee like this. But Duryodhana did not have the heart to speak to Ashwatthama. As he was just silent, Krupa came. And he turned, oh Krupacharya, please tell Karana, please tell Ashwatthama what has happened. And Ashwatthama, Kripa told that your father fought like never before. He destroyed the Panchala army, he destroyed the Virat army, he destroyed their kings, he destroyed their sons. He fought like never before. And seeing him unstoppable, the Pandavas tricked him by telling him that you were dead. And while he lowered his weapons and was sitting in meditation, dejected, that wicked Drishtadyumna came and lopped off his head. And that is why we are fleeing. Ashwatthama fell down in his chariot, crying in lamentation. But within a few moments, his grief turned into rage. How could the Pandavas have killed their own guru like this? Ashwatthama could not believe it. Now, the way Duryodhana spun the story, that there's a very key difference over here. See, there is a difference between something which is cold-blooded and something that is hot-headed. So cold-blooded is something which is planned. It is very cynical, it is planned and it's filled with deception and cunning and intentionality. Hot-headed is something which is just under the rush of the moment. So now, Drona's killing, was it cold-blooded or was it hot-headed? Well, it was. Now, here the lie was cold-blooded. Krishna had told and Yudhishthira had done that. But the killing was hot-headed. They're two very different things. Right? Yes, was it a wrong thing to do? Yes, ethically it was wrong. Now we could say that what Drona was doing was wrong, and that's why to correct one wrong, another wrong has to be done. And that's okay. We could make the moral reasoning like that. But the point over here is that Ashwatthama thought that all the Pandavas were in the conspiracy to cold-bloodedly kill their guru. And he just could not believe. Yudhishthira is supposed to be virtuous. How could he have lied to his own guru like this? What virtue can such a person have? Arjuna was the favorite disciple of my father. That was always a pain point for him. He was a son and he wanted to please his father. And he had tried his best. He was an excellent archer, but Arjuna was super excellent. And while one part of it did not like that, another part admired Arjuna. Arjuna was really a great archer. Arjuna truly loved Drona. That's what he had thought. He said, how could Arjuna have been on this plan to kill Drona? So he says, surely these Pandavas have lost all virtue. And therefore, they need to be destroyed. They need to be killed. So here there was Duryodhana's. Now Duryodhana did not correct that conception. And Ashwatthama did not ask the Pandavas. We say it's a war. What is there to ask? Your father has been killed. You have right to be angry. Of course, he has a right to be angry, no doubt. But there's a difference between what the Pandavas had planned and what Drishtadyumna actually executed. On the other side, so Ashwatthama said, I will lead all of you and I will destroy the Pandavas today. And hearing his anger and his confidence, all the Kauravas turned around. On the other side, there was chaos on the Pandava camp. This was another victory, but there was no joy in this victory. Just like Bhishma's fall had brought grief, Drona's fall had actually brought not just grief but horror. Yudhishthira himself felt a great apprehension. The way they had killed their guru was horrible. He just did not feel it was right. He felt that some catastrophe would come upon them because of the wrong that they had done. Arjuna was so angry. Arjuna charged towards Dhristadyumna. He said, he was your guru. Although he knew that you were born to kill him, still he taught you. How could you have killed him in such cold blood when he was not even defending himself? Dhristadyumna. So Arjuna turned towards others. He says, we all will be covered by sin because of what we have done. And Bhima came to Dhristadyumna's defense, and Bhima said, oh Arjuna, instead of celebrating, why are you castigating your own forces? You knew that you would have to kill Drona, and you knew that you would not be able to do it. Dhristadyumna has done what he was born to do. You saw what Drona was doing. He would have destroyed our army. We had to do what we had to do. Dhristadyumna spoke to Arjuna, trying to be conciliatory. He said, I don't think I have done anything wrong. He said, this was my destiny. And I saw him. He was my guru, but I saw him kill my sons. I saw him kill my father. I saw him doing what no warrior should do. What to speak of somebody who was a Brahmin. That using celestial weapons against ordinary soldiers. This was the only way to save our army. And you know that. Dhristadyumna was completely unrepentant. And that enraged Arjuna even more. And Satyaki came over there to Arjuna's defense. And Satyaki loved Arjuna, and he knew how much Arjuna loved Drona. Now, through all this, Krishna was silent. And Satyaki said that he was our guru. We will be suffused by sin. We will suffer because of what has been done. As they were arguing, suddenly they heard the roar of the Kaurava army charging back. And at that time, Bhima said that, oh Partha, do you want to keep arguing and fighting among ourselves while the son of Drona comes to charge upon us to seek revenge? Well, Arjuna was still heartbroken. Arjuna realized that this was a far greater danger and he had to fight this danger. So Ashwatthama charged forward, and Ashwatthama had acquired the Narayanastra. The Narayanastra was a weapon which he had been assured that nobody could counter it. And in fact, whoever would try to counter it, that person would be targeted with even more force by that weapon. And that person would eventually be destroyed. Nobody could counter that weapon. And he had not really been invested in the war so much that he wanted to use celestial weapons. He had fought fiercely, but he had no animosity towards the Pandavas. He knew that his father loved the Pandavas, and he had appreciated begrudgingly that the Pandavas were great warriors and that Arjuna was the greatest archer. Arjuna was dear to Drona. But now, while he had fought till now diligently as a duty, now it was out of anger and hate. He felt that the Pandavas had sinned grievously. And this is the human mentality. When we feel that others have done wrong to us, we feel that we are justified in doing wrong to them. And then this, because they have crossed boundaries, we can also cross boundaries. So without waiting to challenge any one particular warrior, again going back to celestial weapons, the celestial weapons are to be used by one warrior against another warrior. But without waiting to challenge any particular warrior, Ashwatthama discharged the Narayanastra. And it started, that one weapon started expanding into hundreds and thousands. And the whole Kaurava Pandava army started getting destroyed by that single weapon. And Yudhishthira was already deeply conflicted by what had happened. And seeing his army being destroyed, he said, this is the consequence for we having wronged and killing our Guru. He called out to his soldiers. He said, flee as you can, O soldiers. This weapon cannot be defeated. I give up my cause of fighting. Now, as you're speaking like this, Krishna came up to him. And, oh king, stop speaking like this. And he told me, Krishna got off the chariot and he said, this weapon cannot be defeated. But, he says, this weapon can be dodged. He said, this is the weapon of the mighty Narayan. And stop trying to fight against it. So put aside your weapons and lie down on the ground in prostrated obeisances to the weapon of Narayan. And this weapon will whiz over your heads and not hurt anyone who offers prostrated obeisances to the weapon. Now, on hearing this, all the soldiers, they knew they couldn't fight, they knew they couldn't outrun this weapon. So they decided, Krishna was telling this, all started doing it. Everybody started going out. But one person refused. Who was that? Bhima. He said, he looked around and said, have all of you become cowards? The battlefield is a place where you lie down only when you have been killed. Rise and fight. And then he stayed. He said, if you don't fight, I alone will destroy this weapon. I alone will defeat this weapon. And he was fighting. And because there were no other soldiers over there. So at that time, the entire power of the weapon started concentrating on Bhima. And Bhima's whole body started burning. Bhima was proud. And although his body was burning, he did not show any pain. And he kept moving forward to try to attack, to reach Ashwatthama. He knew that if he could reach Ashwatthama, he would destroy him. And that would stop the weapon. So Krishna and Arjuna, both by staying low down, both of them ran towards Bhima. And Arjuna told, oh brother, if there had been any other way to fight with this weapon, I would have fought it. And Krishna came there and Krishna took Bhima's weapons away from him. And Bhima was burning. So Arjuna discharged, from below it said discharge the Varunastra to get a pour of water, a shower of water on Bhima's body. And Bhima was on one side blinded by rage, on the other side he was blinded by pain. And when Krishna just pulled him down and Arjuna pulled him, and both of them got Bhima to come down. And then the Narayanastra was whizzed on and on and on. But there were no adversaries on the battlefield. And seeing no adversaries, that weapon ceased. And like the Shakti Astra had been given to Karna, this Narayanastra also had been given to Ashwatthama by Drona for one use. He had been told that use it only when your life is in danger. Now, this kind of extremely strong celestial weapons were given very carefully to human beings because they could be terribly misused. So it's like if country has nuclear weapons, then we don't want hot-headed heads of state to be operating those nuclear weapons. So those which have to be level-headed. So Drona had resisted, had hesitated in giving celestial weapons to Ashwatthama. But at the same time, out of his parental love for his child, it wanted his safety. So it told him, I'll give you these weapons, but use them only in extreme emergencies. But in fighting, in using this weapon, because our Pandavas have done such a horrendous wrong that they deserve to be killed. Now that weapon ceased and the Pandavas rose again. And Ashwatthama was enraged. And Duryodhana told him, oh Ashwatthama, use the Naranastra again. And Duryodhana didn't have any mystical weapons, he did not have any knowledge also of much mystical weapons. Like he had told Bhishma, make 5 more arrows with the stick powers. So Ashwatthama was seething with rage. And he said that, I cannot do that. He tried to use another celestial weapon. He used the Bhargavastra. And then Arjuna this time countered that astra. And when he countered that weapon, at that time, Ashwatthama felt so crushed. He felt that he was right in punishing the Pandavas because they had done something so terribly wrong. He felt that if I am right, why am I not succeeding? He just couldn't comprehend what was happening. He just got off his chariot and he said, all is illusion. Nothing in this world makes sense. And he just left the battlefield. When he left the battlefield, at that time he encountered Vyasadeva. Now Vyasadeva is an enduring presence in the Mahabharat. So yesterday I had mentioned that when Yudhishthira was very agitated. So according to some renditions of the Mahabharat, that Yudhishthira's agitation happened after Abhimanyu was killed. According to some other, it was after Ghatotkacha was killed. At that time Yudhishthira rushed through. But at either time, basically Yudhishthira was pacified by Vyasadeva. And Ashwatthama fell at the feet of Vyasadeva and said, my father has been killed by the virtuous Pandavas in the most vicious way. And my weapons, which are undefeatable, have been thwarted. I don't know what is going on. So Vyasadeva was very calm and grave. And he said, O child, O son, Arjuna and Krishna are actually Naranarayan. That it is the eternal Vishnu who has come here. And no one can defeat him. The Narayanastra cannot work against Narayan. Now, Ashwatthama had heard that Krishna is God, but he had not really dwelt on that much. He heard Vyasadeva's words, but he couldn't accept those words. He said, if Krishna is God, why would Krishna do something so unrighteous? Why would Krishna want the Pandavas to kill Drona? Since Drona was their guru, why would they do something like this? So he didn't wait for Vyasadeva spoke. He just offered his obedience and walked away from there. And that sense that I have been wrong, that went deeper and deeper and deeper within him. Now, two things over here. Now, Kripacharya did not tell any lies over there. Like Duryodhana later on inflamed Ashwatthama more and more. The Pandavas have killed your guru. Now Ashwatthama, what the Kripa told is Drishtadumna killed. But there's a subtle difference. And more importantly, we could say that generally we don't speak bad about people who are dead. So nobody told Ashwatthama that Drona had used celestial weapons against ordinary soldiers. So what happened was, he heard only one side of the story. And because of that, he felt that these people, they did something so bad. And how could they have done something so bad? And because they have done something so bad, they have to be punished, no matter what the means used for it. So I will go toward the end right now, because this particular narrative goes on, that on the 18th day, when finally Duryodhana is felled, And Ashwatthama comes over there. And Ashwatthama hears that Duryodhan has been hit below his waist on the thigh, which is against the rules of fighting. We'll later discuss why that was done and how it was done. But this becomes the point where he feels whatever has to be done has to be done. These Pandavas have lost all sense of morality, and therefore they have to be killed. And that is how that night, when he's lying down, on one side he's feeling complete sense of conviction that the Pandavas are wrong and they have to be punished. And this is, sometimes the enemy of truth is not ignorance. The enemy of truth is certainty. Is certainty. The assumption that what I know is right. That is often the greatest enemy of knowing what is right. So you can say truth and falsehood. They are opposites. If we know something is false, we don't know what is true. But the greatest obstacle to knowing the truth is the assumption of certainty. So throughout, what happened for him was his certainty that the Pandavas had done a horrendous wrong, and they kept doing wrong. And that just kept increasing, and they felt that anyway I have to kill them. And that is how he came up with that horrendous plan that he would go into the Pandavas' camp and he would kill them at night when they were all sleeping. His reasoning was, my father was killed when he was unconscious. So if they didn't hesitate to do this, why should we hesitate? Now, if he had done the same thing to Drishtadyumna, that would have been fair. And Drishtadyumna was his first target. He went into the Pandava camp at night and he killed Drishtadyumna. He beat him, crushed him to death. Drishtadyumna said, Drishtadyumna realized that that Ashwatthama is such a rage and he seems to have such power. He just could not fight him. He said, kill me like a warrior. Cut off my head. He said, you are not a warrior. You are an animal. And therefore I will kill you like an animal. And he kicked him and punched him and crushed him to death. A very painful death. And then he went to a nearby camp, which seemed to a nearby tent in the Pandavas camp. Now the Drishtadyumna had been screaming, and the soldiers had started waking up. But everyone had not stirred up till now. Because this happened. Ashwatthama was so furious that he had just crushed and killed Drishtadyumna within minutes. And then the Pandavas were not there in the camp. We'll talk about that later. But he thought the Pandavas were there, and he used a sword and he killed off the Pandavas' heads, cut off the Pandavas' heads. And then by this time, the soldiers had started waking up and he started killing all of them. He's destroyed everyone. Practically no one remained in the camp. And then Ashwatthama came back. And he felt that he had done something right. And he carried the heads of the Kaurav, what he thought were the Pandavas. And when he picked up those heads itself, he realized something is wrong. These seemed to be very light. He looked carefully, and he realized these were not the heads of the Pandavas. They were the heads of the Pandavas' sons. And even he felt horror. Since they were like his nephews, they were like his children. So I killed them by sleeping. But he thought that, let me go to Duryodhan. He had told Duryodhan, I will avenge you. I will destroy the Pandavas. And he went with those heads. And when he came with those heads to Duryodhan, he told him, I have killed the Pandavas. Duryodhan had been lying in utter agony. You knew that he was going to die, but while it had been a fatal blow, it had not been a blow that would kill immediately. He was lying in excruciating pain. So he gave the heads, and Duryodhan immediately took the head of Bhima. And although his thigh had been injured, his arm still had power. And he pressed it, and the head crushed. He says, this is not Bhima. These are not the Pandavas. These are their sons. And this is one rare moment where Duryodhan expresses awareness of a bigger picture. He said, what have you done? They were the only surviving descendants of our Kuru dynasty. Now, till now the Pandavas had not been the Kuru dynasty, wanted to kill them. But it is that awareness was there for him. And he said, you have wiped out our entire dynasty. What have you done? Thinking like this, Duryodhana started singing in such lamentation that he died. And Ashwatthama felt completely crushed by that. He said, what have I done? Then we know later on, Ashwatthama in despair tried to kill. He felt so angry with the Pandavas, he wanted to please Duryodhana. And when Duryodhana got angry with him, he got angry with the whole Kuru dynasty itself. He said, because my father got involved in this Kuru dynasty, that's why he was killed. And that's why he said, I will end the Kuru dynasty. That's why he tried to kill Uttara's womb. And this was an even more heinous act. But what this incident now, he was cursed. He was cursed by Krishna later on to wander on the earth aimlessly. And he was robbed of his effulgence, the jewel that he had been given. But while what Ashwatthama did was utterly despicable, it is that Ashwatthama is not considered a totally evil character. The way, say, Duryodhana was. Because what happened was, this is where I'll conclude with this, that, there is that saying, hurt people hurt people. When people are hurt, they hurt others. Hurt people hurt people. The first hurt is an adjective, the second hurt is a verb. People who are hurt hurt others. Now this can cascade downward. So because you hurt me and you did something wrong to hurt me, so I will do something far worse. And if you do something far worse, I will do even worse. And that way it just goes down. So Ashwatthama is a tragic example. On one side, what he did was utterly unacceptable and despicable. Yet, why he did it, there is a tragic logic to that. And that was based on his one-sided reading of the situation. His one-sided reading was, the Pandavas did all the bad things. And they kept doing one after another bad things. And that's why they deserve to be killed. So, yes, Ashwatthama, in the Vedic tradition, nobody is considered permanently condemned. And Ashwatthama, while he was punished by Krishna for his horrendous actions are not to be denied. But still, he is considered that after he had served that sentence, that he is considered to still be a virtuous person. And many times in Vedic yagyas and karmakanda sacrifices, Ashwatthama is one of the persons who is invoked. In fact, Ashwatthama is said to have become in future, Vyasdeva, a sage. So the point is that what somebody does, if it is terrible, it is terrible. But a terrible action, does it make a person terrible? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So this is a very tragic storyline, but it is a very important lesson over here. The lesson is that sometimes we rush to judgment. People often, nowadays in Rishikesh, there's a lot of Westerners coming, so I go to Rishikesh 2 or 3 times a year for outreach. For Western outreach, Rishikesh is known as the world yoga capital. But nowadays, people don't go so much for yoga, they go there for bungee jumping and other kind of adventure sports. Now, jumping from the top of a mountain, cliff can seem very dangerous. Most of us may not want to get into such danger. But the most dangerous form of jumping is jumping to conclusions. And have outer power. And now the more outer power we have, the more inner power we need. So the outer power, if that is high, or that can be low. The inner power can be high our inner power can be low. Now, inner power means talking about the capacity to restrain our own mind, to restrain our own desires, our own emotions, our own rush to judgment. So, if somebody has outer power and they lack inner power, if somebody lacks outer power and inner power, then they are more or less harmless. They really can't do much. They may be impulsive, they may get angry also, but even their anger is ineffectual. They just can't do much with their anger because they don't have much power. Now, so small baby may get angry, the baby may kick its mother. But the his legs are so small, the kick doesn't hurt him. The baby is, can't really say the baby doesn't have inner power. The baby is just not grown up enough. The baby is not even aware of that particular. But a person who has no outer power, no inner power is relatively harmless. If somebody is a weak person and that person is got mad because of some reason, then they can't really harm anyone much. Now, the person who has outer power and inner power, that person is truly empowered. That means that person has power and they know when to use that power. So they will be able to use that power carefully. There is no virtue in being weak. There is no virtue in having no power. Humility is not having no power. When we in this world is a dangerous place, there are dangerous people, and we need power. But we also need the power to use power properly. So most of the world is mostly seeking outer power, get more and more outer power. Whether it is in terms of positions in our offices, whether it is in terms of relationship and power dynamics and power struggles are always there. But if somebody has outer power and inner power, they can actually use that power for good. Now somebody has inner power but not much outer power. They are virtuous. Having no inner power is basically vice. They are virtuous but ineffective because they don't have outer power. They either need to gain outer power or they need to ally with someone who has outer power. So Brahmanas are expected to have inner power. But unless Brahmanas ally with Kshatriyas, they cannot do much. They cannot really do much good to the world. In emergency situations, the Brahmanas themselves, like in the case of King Driga, now King Vena, the Brahmanas themselves assumed outer power and they crushed the king. So in Kali Yuga, because Shringi abused the Brahminical power to curse a virtuous king, one of the results is that the Brahmanas have lost that outer power, that capacity to curse, that they have lost. So now in today's world, the Brahmanas have inner power, but they do not have outer power. Like we were talking about the situation in Bangladesh. We are not people who are, just because we get angry, we become violent. The way we have been trained, we are not violent even against animals. They want to speak of human beings. But that doesn't mean people are not going to be violent toward us. So we may have inner power, but if we lack outer power, then we may be virtuous, but we are ineffective. So Brahmanas either need to align with Kshatriyas. Now if somebody has outer power, but they lack inner power, they are the most dangerous. And Ashwathama becomes an example of this. Now we could say Ashwathama was not a hateful person. It is not that he was evil. But Ashwathama, what happened is, he goes this way. Now, of course, later he comes back and becomes virtuous like this in the next life. But Ashwathama's journey is such that he starts abusing his inner power or outer power because he feels that I am right. My cause is right and other people are wrong. So he ends up getting a very black and white vision. The Kauravas and Pandavas are wrong. And the Pandavas deserve to be punished. I am right, my cause is right. And therefore, whatever I do to get to my cause, that is right. And I will do it. So that's why his His lack of inner power, what is that? Lack of inner power is basically, in this case, not so much lack of self-control, that is there, no doubt, but lack of inner power could be in terms of in our desires, but even more damaging. See, generally when we have desires which are bad, we all know, say, if somebody is becoming lusty or somebody is becoming angry and they are going beyond the boundaries of dharma or boundaries of civilized behavior, some part of them knows that what I am doing is wrong. So generally, whenever desires overpower us, it is temporary. Because after the surge, after that urge goes up and it makes us do something wrong, and it goes down and we realize, what did I do? But when our judgments go wrong, that is far more dangerous. Because at least in this case, what happens is that our buddhi is just temporarily overpowered. But in the case of when our judgments go wrong, it is our buddhi that becomes perverted. It becomes, in this case, our intelligence is sidelined. Sideline means that it is just pushed aside and the desire rushes forward. But when the judgments go wrong, it can stay, it's far more lasting. Why? Because the intelligence here gets perverted, is distorted, perverted. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that lust, kama, which refers to any self-destructive desire, it exists not just in the senses, not just in the mind, but also in the intelligence. Indriyani manobuddhir asyadishthani uchate. So, when intelligence comes to the level of the buddhi, that is the most dangerous. And that is what unfortunately happens to Ashwatthama. So, that outer power that he has been given by his father, who's also his guru, that he ends up abusing in a monstrous way because he rushes to judgment and thus he loses his inner power. So, in one sense, the Kurukshetra war ends in a very tragic way. We'll move toward that. But Drona's death and his fallout of that death, it goes on further and further. Srila Prabhupada in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 7th chapter, which is the introduction to Krishna Lila, in the first canto, he titles it as the son of Drona punished. Not so much as Ashwatthama punished. Why the son of Drona? Because Ashwatthama is doing what he is doing because he feels angered by the death of his father, by the way his father was killed. And for the Pandavas also, in dealing with Ashwatthama, we say that he's killed sleeping warriors. What is there to think about again? But the fact that he was the son of Drona, the fact that he acted out of a feeling that his father had been viciously killed, that plays a role in the decision that is being made. So the fall of the trajectory of Drona's death goes much further than his own death. And it's like dominoes keep falling. And ultimately, Ashwatthama ends up doing something horrendous because of that. So I'll summarize what we discussed today. So we discussed 3 main points. The first was, I started by talking about Karna and the Gachibowli, that how that particular incident, Krishna protects us from unknown dangers also. And the unknown danger for Arjuna is that Karna had a Shakti weapon, whose power Arjuna had not realized. And Krishna arranged for him to protect him. Because of that, Drona felt even more pressure. Drona, because what happened was, he had no victory to his credit. Yes, he could say Ashwatthama, Abhimanyu had been killed, but that was more like a trick and a trap. So actually here also we discussed in the beginning the difference between trick and cheating. They're not the same thing. So what the Pandavas had done was they tricked the Kauravas. But the Kauravas in killing Abhimanyu had been cheated. So no victory to his credit. And on the other side, there was also the pressure, the accusation from Duryodhana. So both of these led him to do something terrible. he ended up using celestial weapons against ordinary warriors, ordinary soldiers. And now this is what ultimately led to the Pandavas deciding, Yudhishthira deciding that we have to kill him. And we have to stop him basically. Now that's why there's a little ambiguity. Now, there wasn't cold-blooded. Yes, the lying was cold-blooded. It was calculated. The cold-blooded lying was there. But the actual killing, the lying was a collective plan of everyone. But the killing was a hot-headed action of everyone. Of everyone? No, of one person, of the Shiruri. So now, then last part, it's another Ashwatthama's self-righteousness. That he felt that I am right, and therefore whatever I do to punish these wicked Pandavas will be right. So that is where he ended up doing something terribly wrong. So normally you think of truth, the opposite of truth is falsehood. And that is true, but sometimes the opposite of truth can be certainty. That I think I know, therefore I don't need to inquire any further. So he just heard one side of the story, and because of that, he felt that I was doing the right thing. I have to, whatever I do for killing the Pandavas, it is right. And thus he ended up is jumping to conclusions. That we discuss how that's such a dangerous jumping. And now anybody can jump to conclusions that can be harmful, but especially if somebody has the outer power and then they lack inner power. So that can be extremely dangerous. Now, not having inner power can be in terms of not having power over our desires. That is bad enough. But what is worse is not having power to come to judgments properly. Then that means our intelligence itself gets perverted. And then that is extremely difficult to deal with. So while the whole storyline itself is tragic, but there is a very valuable lesson over here. Two lessons we could say. One is that don't rush to judgment. Try to get all the facts. Don't assume that we know. And this becomes all the more necessary when we have significant power. The more outer power we have, the more inner power we need to be able to responsibly use that outer power. So let us pray to Krishna that in this service, by functioning in the world, my dear Lord, please bless me so that whatever power I have, I use it carefully. I don't let my desires or biases mislead me in using my power. And while I seek outer power to do more service to you, let me remember that to do actual service to you, I need inner power much more. Please bless me so that I can always be an instrument for your plan and not become an instrument, an agent of my an illusion while believing that I'm acting to do your will. Please protect me from such dangerous illusion, my Lord. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram,
Ram Ram,
Ram Ram,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
I was just feeling that Mahabharat only has few characters. If we had more characters, Prabhuji would stay for more time with us. One by one. Yeah. So, words can't express. Like yesterday was saying, Prabhuji, when you're actually speaking on the battlefield, you know, the explanation is so lack of words, dramatic and can you say? So live. If I just put this, just live. You're taking us live to Kurukshetra. Very, very nice. And that's actually helping us understand the gravity of situation there. How many can be misunderstood? How many can be misjudged and like biggest jumping, you said, right? Jumping to conclusions. So many misconceptions are there when it comes to Mahabharat. And the reason I was actually thinking when you're coming here that take this series is because those questions really trouble us. And sometimes they affect our faith also. Yeah. So Prabhuji, there are many questions from today's session also. I personally have written 4 of them. And I'm sure many of you are also writing this session. So what I am planning, I'll discuss this later is may the next Sunday be like a podcast, actually like a podcast, where we will accumulate all the questions from everyone, put them in a, like common questions, we'll try to combine them through, and we'll have like, permit me, I'll ask you on their behalf. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So if I may request, we can send a Google form in the Gachibowli section group, asking people to put just the question, right? Any question. And you all can put your questions by maximum Sunday night. So that I'll have some time to accumulate them also.
Saturday.
Yeah. So that let us clarify whatever is the confusion we have. And actually the character of Drona, some areas which I was hoping you will touch upon. Maybe we have extra time now, so we can think probably about Drona's exchange with Drupada. And Drona's saying no to Karna for educating him. Ekalavya is anyway, one of the stories. And Drona's, why did even Drona submit to Dhritarashtra? He had no obligation like Bhishma. And his silence towards Draupadi, his own sisters. And how did he empower Kauravas when he knew that their intentions are not right? Even while coaching, as a guru we say, right? What is it? Vidya Vinayam. If there is no Vinayam, there should not be given Vidya. He kept on giving Vidya, still in spite of knowing that the intentions are not good. So there are many things about, that make us conclude on Drona, especially Drona, in many ways, which can be clarified for you. If you want to add one more session on Drona, because we have extra time now. If you want to, or we can do it as part of the Q&A, where I bring up these questions about Drona. And anything else also you can take it forward. So I know it's office time for many of us. So thank you very much for coming. It was a wonderful, yet another morning with Chaitanya Charan. Let's thank Prabhuji for his heartfelt expression and explaining of this Mahabharat Katha for all our benefit with 3 loud and enthusiastic. Haribol! 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 We cannot get this, we cannot just get this kind of Katha unless the speaker is wanting to give it to us. Many people who speak Mahabharat, but it's somewhere they are worried about subscriptions or comments or popularity or something. But this Katha was really, to benefit all of us. And especially, this you will never see anywhere. We have heard of Katha, but the lessons, how we can implement it in our lives is very unique. And someone was telling Prabhuji that you should write a book those 18 days. Something like that. But we still have these lectures and their live book in itself. So please share it with your friends, what we are recording here. So everybody benefits and understands how great our history is, how great our warriors were, the great personalities were. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Free Guru.
Krishna, please 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, Prashad is still on the way, okay. Today it has to be really hot. So it's going. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Please stay on for a few minutes. And you have books here. Give me the book. Yeah, if somebody has come here first time and you have not taken this book yet, you have Gita for CEO book, you can get it signed by Prabhuji. It's 450 rupees. Actually, it's 500 rupees, but you're getting it at a good rate. And Prabhuji is here to sign it and you can also gift it to others. So, Hare Krishna. And we also have a calendar, Gita Daily. Yes. So, if you have to take, immediately come and take because Prabhuji has to leave at 10 sharp. Yeah, he has a program in Salesforce and then in other companies. So many programs are lined up for it.
Tomorrow session is there.
Yeah, please, don't spend too much time with Prabhuji speaking. If you ask, Prabhuji will speak, but he has to leave. Hare Krishna. That's all.
Hare Krishna. who have more confidence and dare enough to speak on this subject can only speak.
Yes.
That is Prabhuji.
Very good.
Nobody can. This subject is very controversial and very difficult to explain.
So as you heard, Hare Krishna, subject is very difficult to explain, but still Prabhuji is doing it. So please join us online again tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you.